There are people who start to feel early on that something is wrong with the world, but for a long time cannot understand what exactly it is. They look around and notice something strange. Everyone seems to need to be together all the time, constantly discussing something, constantly keeping in touch, sharing news, joking, pretending to be close. And the more they participate in this, the more fatigue, irritation, and the feeling that they are not living their own lives grows inside them. They observe how easily people bond over surface-level conversations, how quickly friendships form around convenience, proximity, or shared habits, and how little depth seems to be required for most relationships to function. Yet the more they try to participate in that same rhythm, the more their internal energy drains, leaving them with an unshakable sense that they are constantly giving more than they are receiving. For years, this creates confusion, because from the outside they appear capable, articulate, and socially functional, and they are often told that they simply need to open up more, relax, or stop overthinking, without anyone realizing that their mind is already processing far more information than most people ever consciously register. Psychology offers a far more accurate explanation for this experience, one rooted not in deficiency, but in sensitivity, depth, and a nervous system that is wired to detect emotional truth rather than social performance. These individuals possess heightened perceptual awareness, meaning their brains automatically scan for inconsistencies between words and intentions, tone and meaning, presence and authenticity, which causes shallow interaction to feel mentally loud and emotionally unsatisfying. While others unconsciously filter out emotional noise in social settings, these people absorb it, process it, and carry it with them long after the interaction ends, which explains why environments designed for constant connection often feel more draining than restorative. It is not that they dislike people, but that their nervous system reacts strongly to inauthenticity, forced intimacy, and relationships built on unspoken expectations rather than genuine understanding. Small talk, in particular, becomes one of the most exhausting elements of modern social life for this type of mind, not because it lacks intelligence, but because it lacks sincerity, depth, and emotional presence. Conversations that revolve around safe topics, rehearsed opinions, and polite engagement without true listening require these individuals to suppress their natural depth, which creates internal tension and fatigue over time. As a result, many of them gradually withdraw from social environments, not dramatically or impulsively, but thoughtfully and often reluctantly, choosing solitude over constant emotional friction. This withdrawal is frequently misunderstood by others as aloofness or emotional distance, when in reality it is a form of self-regulation designed to preserve mental clarity and emotional stability. Research on high social sensitivity shows that some nervous systems expend significantly more cognitive and emotional energy during interpersonal interaction because they process not only verbal content, but also emotional subtext, micro-expressions, environmental cues, and relational dynamics simultaneously. For these individuals, every conversation carries a cost, and without sufficient depth or meaning, that cost quickly outweighs the benefit. This pattern often leads to periods of extended solitude that feel paradoxical, simultaneously lonely and deeply relieving, because while the absence of connection highlights an innate human need, the absence of emotional noise finally allows the nervous system to relax. It is during these periods that such individuals often feel most like themselves, grounded, clear-minded, and emotionally regulated, even as they question why connection feels so difficult to maintain. Another defining characteristic of this psychological profile is an elevated threshold for trust, which often develops after early experiences of emotional inconsistency, neglect, or betrayal that taught the brain to associate closeness with unpredictability. When trust has been broken repeatedly, the nervous system adapts by becoming more selective, observant, and cautious, creating a protective barrier that prevents casual access to one's inner world. This heightened selectivity is not cynicism, but learned intelligence, because the mind has been conditioned to recognize that not all connection is safe, not all attention is genuine, and not all affection comes without cost. Instead of forming many shallow bonds, these individuals unconsciously wait for rare moments of resonance, where conversation flows into meaning and emotional presence feels mutual rather than draining. Because of this, they often go through life with very few close relationships, sometimes none at all, and while this can create moments of self-doubt, psychology suggests that their standards are not unrealistic, but rather aligned with their emotional capacity. They do not lack the ability to connect. They lack the desire to compromise depth for proximity. What further distinguishes these individuals is their unusually strong internal world, which reduces their reliance on external validation and constant social reinforcement. They are capable of entertaining themselves, processing emotions independently, and finding meaning through reflection, creativity, and inner dialogue, which allows them to remain psychologically stable even in extended solitude. This internal independence is often misinterpreted as emotional coldness or detachment in a culture that equates constant social engagement with health, yet it represents a form of psychological resilience that is becoming increasingly rare. While others seek connection to escape themselves, these individuals have learned how to sit with their own minds, navigate silence, and extract insight from solitude. However, this depth also comes with a hidden cost, because living in a world that prioritizes speed, visibility, and performative connection can create a persistent sense of alienation. They may feel out of sync with their generation, disconnected from mainstream social norms, and unsure where they truly belong, even as they understand themselves more deeply than most. Psychology does not view this experience as a flaw, but as a mismatch between an individual's emotional architecture and the social structures surrounding them. When depth-oriented minds are placed in shallow environments, withdrawal becomes a natural response rather than a pathology. If you recognize yourself in this description, it does not mean you are broken, antisocial, or incapable of love, but rather that your mind operates with heightened awareness, deeper processing, and stricter emotional standards. Sometimes the people who feel most alone are not failing to connect, but refusing to lose themselves in connections that do not nourish their nervous system. And often, the strongest minds are the ones that learn to walk alone for a while, not because they fear closeness, but because they are waiting, patiently and quietly, for something real